are these people?
Dissent in Bloom has been on a fucking tear. If you have not followed her yet on Substack, follow her. That's first. I brought 4 articles, and this isn't even everything she wrote this week. And they're chock full of substance. I can't get to all of them and get through all of them, but I do want to showcase a couple of things in each one of them that I think you really need to pay attention to. And I'm going to drop the links in the description afterwards and in the Substack afterwards, so you'll be able to go and read them all for yourself, because you need to see these. This one is really important, and it is directly impacting somebody in this chat. And it was written because of somebody in this chat, partially. Anthony Malecki's sister, and we're going to find out about her sister-in-law. We're going to find about Natalia in a minute. All right. Dissent in Bloom wrote how Ohio built a business on disappearing immigrants. What? Yeah, this is what's going on in the Trump administration right now. An investigative report on how Ohio sheriffs turned traffic tickets into ICE money, arrested a working mother, and helped to make your county into a quiet deportation machine. Because as we know, Trump very famously said about that.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
All right. So it starts with a flicker of red and blue in the mirror. Well, and the cats. They're eating them all. Cats are dicks. In Ohio, it's all it takes. A tag a month out. A stop sign interpreted too loosely. A state trooper with a quota. That's the doorway. What happens after has nothing to do with traffic. And this isn't theoretical. Ohio has been perfecting the traffic stop to deportation pipeline since at least early 2024. And she's got an article there from American Immigration Council that showcases something about that. Hang on, let me do that. There we go. All right. According to the American Immigration Council, the Ohio State Highway Patrol began colluding with Border Patrol agents at the Sandusky Bay Station to target Latino drivers in northern Ohio. They pulled over vehicles on flimsy pretexts, performed ID checks, and flagged names to DHS. That was the dress rehearsal. Now the tactic is statewide, weaponized by local sheriffs with dollar signs in their eyes and ICE on speed dial. Wow, look at all those blue dots and red dots down there. Huh. Fuck Texas and fuck Florida. Under Trump's second term, sheriffs across Ohio have been deputized, some formally, some functionally, to act as federal immigration enforcers. That's fucked up right there. Through the 287G program, local cops can be trained and authorized to make civil immigration arrests, usually under the banner of quote-unquote public safety. Where have we seen this before? Portage County signed on. Others, like Mahoning County, didn't. They didn't need to. All it takes is a jail contract, a traffic stop, and the political will to disappear people for money. So let's talk about Ohio. Let's start with Mahoning County. They didn't join 287G. They didn't need to, like she said. Sheriff Jerry Green, who served 4 years as a Democrat before flipping to the Republicans and running unopposed in 2024, made a simple deal. ICE pays $125 a day for each immigrant detained in their county justice center. And as soon as Trump got elected, I contacted ICE in Cleveland and Homeland Security in Detroit and discussed with them that I would certainly have some open bed space if they wanted to come out and take a look at us as at a particular facility that they wanted to be housing immigrants. Right? So he's got a capacity for 150 people. That deal's worth over $4.5 million a year. So by this April, Mahoning was already housing 95 ICE detainees a day. Most were picked up after minor traffic stops and funneled into Green's jail like livestock into a butchery. All right, and one of them is Natalia Flechkova. And Anthony will probably correct me on the pronunciation. She's a 54-year-old legal resident. She's lived in the U.S. for 9 years, working, raising her daughter, and applying for a green card. Doing it the right way. She was stopped in Portage County, reportedly over by the Ohio State Patrol, for expired tags and ended up in ICE custody. Her family has launched a GoFundMe to help with legal costs, and if you're able to, please check it out. Her story is what led me to investigate this entire pipeline. So literally, because of Anthony and because of this article was written and this entire investigation was done. Like in a day, by the way. This woman's incredible. Natalia's booking lists her as charged with federal immigration, whatever the fuck that is, and held in Mahoning County indefinitely, but she was arrested in Portage right next door. And Portage County, that's no ordinary county either. It's one that enthusiastically joined the 287G program. Now remember, that's the formal ICE partnership that deputizes local cops as federal immigration agents. The one that they advertise on their website like they're selling you cable service. Yeah. Portage County Sheriff Bruce Zukowski didn't just accept immigration powers. He jumped at the chance to join ICE's enforcement network while already under fire for abusing his position. Because thugs of a feather joined together. So Zukowski actually said that he is surprised that more sheriffs haven't already signed on to this because of how much safer he believes it'll make their communities. Notice he's got a goatee or a Fu Manchu, and my guess is he's probably a 3%er, but that's speculation. I don't know. In 2024, though, this same man was accused of using jail inmates as free labor for his re-election campaign. They were made to haul gear, build booths, and work for the county fair under his name, not for the public, for his political machine. And now that same sheriff holds federal authority to arrest immigrants and hand them off to the same jail system his allies profit from. Just so fucked up. This guy's never faced any charges. But now he holds federal immigration authority to arrest people and then house them in one of 6 facilities that ICE is paying in their neck of the woods. And that authority was used to begin the chain that moved Natalia from a minor traffic stop into ICE custody. So this is the 6 facilities right here. Who owns them? All right. Are they used for detention? Yes. And ICE is involved. And do they have ICE contracts? You have to wonder, when a sheriff with 287G powers arrests immigrants but doesn't house them, and his neighbor runs an ICE detention contract worth millions, is it just coordination? Or is it quiet, localized profiteering? Is there some kind of deal on the back end happening? Is one county kicking some of the money, Mahoning County kicking some to Portage for getting those immigrants sent over to be housed and make their profits? Zukowski makes the arrests, Green fills the beds, they both benefit, no paperwork required. She says, now I say this because records show us that Natalia isn't the only one. Again, no surprise. In recent weeks, Mahoning booking logs have been filled with Latino and Eastern European names marked as federal-other or federal immigration. No local charges, trials, or paperwork here. Just bodies moved like inventory. This echoes what's happened in Tennessee, in Georgia, Colorado, also in Louisiana. And she gives a few examples here of people that have been fucked around by the system, and DACA recipient pulled over, released by local authorities, and immediately detained by ICE. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? They set him up. This isn't enforcement. It's dragnet deportation by traffic stop. And in Ohio, sheriffs have perfected the funnel straight into their jails and straight into their pockets. So they're making money from locking up the people that Trump told them that he wanted to have them lock up. Not only are they doing what he wants. I don't care
about you. I just want your vote. I don't care.
Right. Well, and then he's just going to fill their pockets also on top of it and make them wealthy. But not him. The system will make them wealthy. In early 2024, the American Immigration Council exposed a quiet, coordinated effort between Border Patrol agents and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Then came the handoffs. Border Patrol was standing by, ID checks were called in, and people vanished. The report didn't make news for long, couple of headlines, a few statements. Then it slipped into silence. That's what they want. Law enforcement agencies across Ohio heard the message loud and clear. No one was going to stop them, so they didn't stop. Instead, sheriffs built on the model. They studied the gaps, formalized the pipeline, signed the paperwork, and made it all look legal. By the time this year rolled around, the deportation machine was already up and running. All it needed was fuel. That's people. And it came from traffic stops like the one that took Natalia. She wasn't an outlier. She was a test case. She was proof that their system works. Not the system, but their system. A legal resident with no criminal record, caught between county lines and jurisdictional doublespeak, pulled into ICE custody like it was the natural next step in a bureaucratic routine.
Right, now, right away.
It's scary. And now the logs in Mahoning keep filling up. Names marked federal other. No charges, no court dates, just bodies moved like freight. Eastern European, Latino, poor. In their minds, disposable. The sheriffs cash the checks, the jails fill the beds, and the lights keep flashing in rearview mirrors across the state. In America, we don't need black sites. We have county roads. We don't need secret police. We have deputies with ICE on speed dial. We don't need to disappear people in the night. We just need a taillight out, a judge who won't ask questions, and a country willing to look away. Ohio had already built the blueprint, and no one else is coming to tear it down unless we do. All right? So that's number one. And that's Natalia.
We got to make more room for Ukrainian refugees.
All right. So on Tuesday, Anthony posted on his Twitter, update on Natalia. Today we got her car out of impound finally after all the bullshit bureaucracy, them losing paperwork, etc. Now remember, she was taken into custody, I think in July or June. And her court date has been fast-tracked to Thursday, which I don't know what happened there. I didn't see the post. But where she will petition for a release on parole and a legal status change, we have an idea of how that's probably going to go, unfortunately. But I made a joke to him privately that her car got a faster due process than she did. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's the car, by the way. Right? So this is the GoFundMe. They've raised over $1,000 for her already. She's going to need more than that to pay for lawyers and to cover costs while she's in jail. Remember, she is a working mother. She's got a kid. Driving a box truck. I guarantee you she's lost her job at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to everyone that has contributed and supported so far. And thank you to Dissent in Bloom for caring and writing this article. It, like, helping change lives. And Anthony, I'm sure, will give us an update that I'll put up later. All right. This is another really important article that our friend wrote this week. Again, she's in chat, so say thank you and say hi if you can in YouTube. America's new police state, the leaked memo you need to see. And this one is fucking crazy. I saw this. I'm like, really? And nobody else is talking about this? A leaked memo from DHS reveals a terrifying plan to merge military power with immigration enforcement, and it ain't just about the immigrants. And Whitney Webb has been saying for a long time that all of this surveillance was not about keeping everyone out. It's about keeping us in and watching everything we do, and then profiting from it and pushing out the people that they don't want, that'll fight the system. They only want people that'll go along. So she says, for decades, we've invested trillions of our tax dollars into building the largest military force on earth, believing it was meant to protect us from outside threats. Well, no, we were sold the lie that it was meant to protect us from outside threats. We believed it because we were propagandized to believe that, when all it did was make us unsafer and make us the bully of the world. Now the barrel is turning inward, and this leaked memo from DHS tells us exactly how. All this military equipment that they have that they weren't able to use overseas, well, they're going to use it domestically. They say it's protecting you from the threat of immigrants. That's the story they sell. But history shows the bars built for them always close on you. There's a reason they want an army this big, and it ain't just for the immigrants. So, dated August 2nd, that was 8 days ago, 2025, the memo describes a closed-door meeting between Trump's Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, Whiskey Pete, the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. military, the general responsible for defending American soil, okay, and also a former Fox News contributor, of course, senior Pentagon advisors, and the leadership of ICE and Border Patrol. Their focus was not on overseas wars, but on how to merge military power with immigration enforcement inside the United States. Wait, I thought that was illegal. It was written by one Philip Hegseth, a senior advisor to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and the go-between for Homeland Secretary Security and the Pentagon. Not to be confused again with his older brother Pete, the former Fox anchor who now serves as Secretary of Defense. That's Philip. He kind of looks a little like Whiskey Pete. Older brother writes the plan. The other one commands the troops. That ain't national security. That's family business in building a police state. Trump also runs a family business. In its own words, the memo promises 100% success if the Pentagon and Homeland Security foster new ideas on national security and illegal immigration. Yeah, let's make a police state, and then you'll have 100% success. We'll watch and listen to everybody. Amazing. It explicitly pushes for a verbal agreement to place Pentagon staff directly inside ICE and Border Patrol. The kind you can't FOIA, subpoena, or easily challenge in court. How convenient. It tells America's highest-ranking military generals that they must feel the urgency of the Homeland Defense mission, whatever the fuck that means. I hope their assholes are closed. And even tries to sell that immigration is the same as Al-Qaeda or ISIS cells and fighters operating freely inside America. Guys, are you wetting your fucking pants yet? You sound like pussies. Yes, you read that right. They're comparing migrants to ISIS. ISIS, by the way, Dissent in Bloom, is CIA and Israel-backed and funded. Notice how they never attack
Israel's secret intelligence service.
Right. Notice how they never attack Israelis or anyone friendly to, to Western interests. Mm-hmm. And right now, they're running Syria. All right?
Yep.
Here's the thing. This isn't just a plan on paper. 6 weeks before this memo was written, Pete Hegseth's office quietly ordered 700 active duty soldiers to detention facilities in Florida, Texas, and Louisiana to assist, quote unquote, ICE. The Pentagon called it support, but on the ground, it meant U.S. troops were already working immigration enforcement missions long before this ever leaked. Now, I want you to remember that this memo exists in public view only because it was leaked. Whether the deal it pushed for ever happened is locked inside a so-called verbal agreement, quote unquote, only known to those in the room. The best shot at truth is a whistleblower, or Pete Hegseth getting sloppy drunk and dropping a journalist into another top secret signal chat. That's funny. That already happened twice, I think, right? I mean, we know he dropped Jeffrey Goldberg into the signal chat, but there was apparently a second signal chat that included his wife and other people that were not cleared to be in the know. The use of a quote-unquote verbal agreement wouldn't be the first time this administration has worked overtime to keep us in the dark, leaning on workarounds like encrypted apps. All right. But also, and she's going to say, in fact, secrecy is now policy. Earlier this year, the Trump admin dismantled FOIA teams at multiple agencies. I sent her the thing about how she's like, oh, well, earlier this year, Trump admin dismantled FOIA teams at multiple agencies. Again, they have a mandate to respond to FOIAs, but there's no mandate telling them how many people need to work there. Right? So turning record backlogs into multi-year delays while once again twisting the law in a way that benefits their fascism. How convenient. Right? What I was also going to mention just now was the alligator Auschwitz is also being done not really on a verbal agreement, but they're doing it on temporary tents so they don't have to go through permanent building codes, for example. Right? So this is a long article. I'm not going to finish this whole thing. This is talking about how LA was the dress rehearsal. All right. And then how historically we've seen this before. And she makes a comparison to 1933 Germany and the Reichstag fire. All right. Using a false flag type of event to ramp up authoritarianism. Hopefully we're back now, folks. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, children. All right. And then it's saying that the military has targeted Americans for protesting before. Look at Kent State when the National Guard troops opened fire on unarmed college students protesting Vietnam. Right. This is the danger we face when military forces brought into our streets under the pretext of security. The difference between crowd control and a massacre can be one order, one moment of panic, or one leader who sees political advantage in violence. And we know Trump sees political advantage in violence. All right, once soldiers are in position, the potential for abuse is not theoretical. History tells us it's inevitable. We saw this last year at Columbia University with the cops. I mean, how many attacks on these unarmed kids were there? A lot. Right? Today, that may be the migrants. Tomorrow, it could be you. All it takes is for Dissent to be rebranded as danger. But fear is what they're counting on. And this is really important. This is why I brought this, right? They expect you to be afraid and to allow them to continue to abuse human rights. Please don't be afraid. And even if you are, fight back with your hands trembling. I am. Fear keeps us silent while they disappear our neighbors. Fear keeps us frozen while they break the people who cannot fight back. We have to stand for those who have no one else. Think of the elderly, the sick, the disabled, and the children. Think like this little girl. In this video, you see her being held onto by an even smaller child, a confused and terrified toddler, sobbing so hard she can barely breathe. She's begging them not to take her dad, and then a woman hugs her, tries to console her. But how do you console a child who's lost everything? She tells them how mom died not long ago, and the only parent she has left is being dragged away by masked men. She's wailing that she can't lose him too, begging. Right? This is a picture. It's not a video. This moment won't fade for her. It'll etch itself into her developing mind, shaping how she sees safety and trust and love for the rest of her life. Psychologists know that when children are torn from their parents, it disrupts their emotional and social development, leaving scars that can manifest as anxiety, depression, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. At minimum, a child's sense of the world as a safe place shatters, replaced by the lesson that the people who were supposed to protect you can also take everything from you. This is not just an arrest, it's a wound that'll follow her into adulthood. So now, so know that the expectation that you'll be scared, that you'll comply in advance, is the very fuel they run on, because fascists win when people are silent, cut off, and convinced they're powerless, as Jesse Jett wrote. We take that fuel away when we know the truth and refuse to bury it. Knowledge is a weapon that exposes their lies. Solidarity is a weapon that denies them control. People united are a weapon that they cannot contain. And we're going to show a little bit of weaponry in London that happened this weekend. Right? If we let this stand, LA will not be remembered as the dress rehearsal. It'll be remembered as opening night. When we stand together and make it clear that they don't get to rule in the shadows, they can't stop us all. All right? So that's another good one. Again, Dissent in Bloom. I'm going to read her little shtick here because We do value for value, as does she. She doesn't put her work behind a paywall and never will. Stories like this, the ones that pull apart the documents and track the timelines and connect the dots that they hope you'll never see, should be available to everyone who wants to read them. We believe the same thing. This kind of reporting takes time, risk, and resources. So if you value work that names names, shows receipts, and refuses to look away, consider subscribing. A free subscription helps share this work with more people. A paid subscription helps keep her going. It allows her to file FOIA requests and chase leads, verify sources, and stay on the story long after the headlines fade. They're counting on you not knowing and not remembering. We can make sure that neither happens. And I've been trying to help fill in some of the gaps on what she hasn't seen, because she's relatively new to the space and to looking at all of this and waking up to all of this. And there's a lot, 250 years of lying and manipulating to get us to this place. Everybody has knowledge that we can contribute to this. Yes, trying to keep your head up in this game, Lone Star, Rafiki. Yes, we all are. All right, that's Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. All right, so the other two, this is super important, and I want you to read this because I can't go through this whole thing, but I do want to point out a couple of key important points in these. This is an executive order that she sees as the Trojan horse of our elections, because it's going to allow them. It's an executive order that kind of rewrites how it's a continuation of the SAVE Act, which has gone nowhere in the Senate. So they don't want to, they can't force a vote. All right. But what's in there, but what's in this executive order is similar to what was in the SAFE Act. So it's like hedging their bets. Even if they don't get that, they'll get it hit through this executive order. All right. It's part of the larger voter suppression we've seen during Trump's second term. But look closer, you can also see the groundwork being laid for a centralized surveillance structure under the guise of protecting elections. That's one of the reasons for surveillance is, well, you could be fucking with the machines or trying to sow dissent in our electoral process. This was just the first crack in the glass. We'd see it again. We'd again see this pattern metastasize in the months to come. And the wildest part, it's only August. We've got well over 3 years till the next presidential. All right. But here's what the executive order actually says, let alone what they say it says about freedom and integrity and blah, blah, blah. At first glance, executive order 14248, bland as all hell, pretends that it's about protecting elections. That's the sales pitch, but it's not. It opens by claiming our elections are messy, unsecure, and vulnerable to fraud. Totally agree. It blames non-citizens, which is bullshit. It blames blocked voter rolls, bloated voter rolls, which is also bullshit. It blames foreign influence, which is also bullshit because the calls are coming from inside the House. It accuses the Justice Department of not doing enough to investigate and enforce existing laws. And then, of course, it proposes the solution of federal intervention to clean it all up. Trusting this administration to protect elections is like putting the arsonist in charge of a fire safety class. Right? And
let me show you something.
Let me tell you something. That's right. So here's what it means. If you live in a state that tries to protect voter access, this order says the federal government can now pressure that state to change its rules. If your ballot gets flagged by a broken database, you might not even know until it's too late. And then buried in Section 4B, Section 2, is a bombshell that hasn't even gotten enough attention. For the first time in EAC history, that's the Election Assistance Commission, which was formed in 2002 after they started implementing digital machines, the president is ordering the commission to review and, if appropriate, recertify voting systems under the new standards and then rescind all previous certifications of voting equipment based on prior standards. In plain English, that means every machine certified under older federal guidelines could lose its federal certification overnight. I think that's a great thing. Historically, though, EAC updates have only applied prospectively, meaning new standards for new machines, while older systems kept their certifications unless a state itself pulled them. Historically, the creation of a new VVSG doesn't mean that the old machines are automatically decertified, and there's a reason why they're adding this in. Again, this isn't about fixing problems. It's about building a system where the people in power get to decide who counts. When a president writes an executive order that lets Homeland Security and the Justice Department rewrite how states run their elections, then threatens to punish states that don't play along, you're not looking at reform. You're looking at fascism. That's how fascism works. Authoritarianism. Top-down authoritarianism. And she'll be the first to concede that our elections are messy. All right. This is how I found her, was about the machines and Jack Cobb. One of the first stories. Right. What I've learned is that our elections didn't suddenly become messy. They were made that way by wealthy organizations that saw democracy as a business opportunity. Our elections are infested. Yep. Our elections are infested with for-profit corporations and private equity-backed vendors who got power after they cozied up to secretaries of state, congressional staffers, and election boards, lobbying their way into control of the very systems that count our votes. They pushed for proprietary voting machines. They demanded secrecy around source code and cast vote records needed for true forensic audits. They sold software updates behind closed doors, and then they lobbied to make sure oversight didn't exist. They pushed for the Help America Vote Act. In 2002, that was another Trojan horse wrapped in patriotic language. They love to do that. What it actually did was open the door for private companies to run our elections behind closed doors. You got to read this article. It's insane. But what it then leads to is, guess who gets to pay attention to and look at all of the data and help the government assemble a profile on everyone? Go ahead.
Palantir.
That's one of them. It's LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, and Palantir can basically now follow you without a warrant by profiling you and assembling a profile of you based upon your behavior and history. Those companies buy massive amounts of personal data from third-party brokers. Most people have never heard of them, but they exist to collect and sell info about you. Companies like Axiom and Oracle's Data Marketplace know where you live, what you search, who you text, what car you drive, what prescriptions you filled, and how much debt you carry.
And know what you did last summer.
And then they sell that information to the federal government and to other businesses so that they can target market you more effectively. Now take that surveillance infrastructure and apply it to voting. Then apply it to the rest of America. Right? Again, read this whole thing. It's a crazy good article. I mean, again, I wouldn't bring it if it wasn't good. She's great. But further evidence of what happened, she looked into the history of the machines. All right? Where America's voting software was literally written by criminals and backed by corporations. I wonder why they're fucking corrupt. All right?
Yep.
In America, you can serve time for computer fraud and come back to write the software that decides elections. That's not a joke. That's our reality, and it's been happening for decades. Yep.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Global Election Systems had a programmer named Jeffrey Dean, a man fresh out of prison for manipulating computer systems to embezzle money, and he got hired by Diebold, who didn't think twice about bringing him on board, and then promoted him, made him head of their research and development department, where he wrote the code for the voting machines. By the way, all these people were heavily aligned with the Republican Party. All right. Again, a crazy, interesting, fascinating story of how did we get here, and doing a deep dive into the history of how we ended up with electronic voting machines and with private companies running them. All right. ES&S, Diebold, and Sequoia were the original big three. And now we're down to ES&S and Dominion, which was like a conglomerate of Diebold, which broke up, and Sequoia. Right, again, she has all of this, but private equity firms are behind the curtain. Defense contractors and political fixers who understood one simple rule: If you control the machines, you control the outcome. Who was it that very famously said, I don't care how many votes, I care how many votes are counted. And who's doing the counting is what makes the big difference.
The spice controls the universe.
They didn't win the market with innovation. They won it with legislation. Oh, that sounds like a Cornel West line. They didn't win the market with innovation. They won it with legislation. Curtis Mayfield. Ah. So, and Miles Davis. Oh, Miles Davis. God, man, what a sad story.
That guy back there. He's back there.
What a sad
Mr.
story.
Miles is back there.
Yeah, he's behind the lighted curtain, but he's back there on Reese board. Anyway, so I'm not going to go through the rest of this article, but I'm going to link it, and I want everyone to go and read that. You guys have homework for next Sunday. I'm going to give a quiz, open book, but it'll still be a quiz, and make sure everybody read it. So, yes, Pittsburgh, dude, Jazzman. Scoopity bebop. Amen, man. That's great. Love it. Dissent in Blue, man. She's incredible. She's something else. That's all I can say. Yep. Indeed. Yeah, indeed. Nice. All right. So go support Dissent in Bloom. Go support our friend Anthony Malecki's sister-in-law, Natalia. She could really use the help. All right. I know that took a while, but there were so many important stories to get to there. And she wrote, and those aren't even all of them. You could spend hours. I told her I could have done a 2-hour show just covering your articles this week if I wanted to. But there's so much else happening too. And I appreciate Dissent in Bloom for all she does. And she's a dynamo, a full-time nurse, RN, a mom, and engaged, and runs a foundation on top. Like, I don't know how she got time to do all this research and everything, but man, do I appreciate it. And man, does it make me just kind of shake my head and say how lucky we are to have people like her out there doing this. Seriously. Some crazy stories about what's happening in our country that people really are not paying close attention to because they're distracted by Twitch streamers or journalist drama or...
Right.
I don't know. Just look at some of the titles. Just look at some of the titles of some of the other shows that have been out there that we all know and love. And it's really sad that nobody wants to talk about stuff like this because, of course, the algorithm doesn't really reward it. And because of that, we rely on you for our funding because we know you came here for actual news. So if you want to join that board and become another supporter like the people over there, incredible people, especially the people that are highlighted there, thank you so much. And Ralph Mejia, man, thank you again. Hooking us up, and Kieran Pine this week. Dissent in Bloom, man, thank you. She also is a supporter of this network, and we really, really greatly appreciate that. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. No fees there. co-fi.com/Indie News Network, and it'll show up on screen. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Do it as friends and family, no fees. IndieNewsNow.com is our news website where you can not just see INN stuff, but stuff across independent media that we believe in and support. And then at the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com, that's for the network, and IndieMediaToday.com, that's my newsletter where I publish alerts for this show, and all the clips for this show go out as individual podcasts on a daily basis every morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Support independent media because we need it more than ever.
We are out of here.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what